Um, Welcome to the next in our series of OK Tours webinars. Tonight we're going to talk about Austria. We have Gabriele Wolf with us, who is like an expert on this subject. So I'm going to keep my comments short and sweet and pass it over to Gabriele. We'll start with a brief introduction. It's the same one I use every time. So if you've seen it before, you can just put your fingers in your ears. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat and we will deal with them at the end rather than interrupting the presentation. So if you think of something while they're doing the presentation, just put it in the chat and I'll look at all those when we're done. We're OK Cycle and Adventure Tours. We are a full service TICO licensed travel agency and we specialize in active vacations. We do bicycle tours. We do bike and boat tours where your hotel comes with you. We do trekking and hiking tours. This was actually taken in Austria. We do adventure tours. And I'm going to give you a really very brief overview of the team. Manny, who you can actually see on your screen, is the founder and CEO. He founded Cycle and Adventure Tours in 1995. He's an avid cyclist. He loves to go and tour around the world and take his bicycle with him. And he founded OK Cycle and Adventure Tours because this is his passion. And he enjoys sending other people on trips just like the ones he goes on. I'm Judy, I'm the office manager. I'm also a licensed travel agent. I have lived in several different countries and I enjoy sort of adventure tourism. My husband and I spend as much time as we can traveling around the world. We've done multiple trips to Asia. We've lived in Europe. We've done trips to Central and South America. I love to travel and I'm always happy to share my travel adventure stories with anyone who's willing to listen. Ross Travel is another travel agent who works with us. He's our newest travel agent. He's a big fan of bike boat tours and he's visited several countries around the world. He specializes in European vacations. This is Howard. Howard is our controller. He's a CPA and a CGA, and he sends you the bills and he pays our bills. Tonight's speaker is Gabriele Wolf from the Austrian Tourist Office in New York. Gabriele is a native of Salzburg and loves classical music and the outdoors. She crisscrosses the pond many times a year to educate travel experts on the unique cultural aspects of Austria. Some of her favorite subjects are Austria's cultural imprint left by the Habsburgs dynasty, the farm-to-table movement, and the wonderful Austrian wines that are produced in the eastern part of the country. Growing up in Salzburg has instilled in her a lifelong passion for the love of the Austrian countryside. Snow-capped mountains, crystal clear lakes, and the ringing of church bells have a special place in her heart. Her favorite pieces of music are Mozart's clarinet concertos, Beethoven's opera Fidelio, and the magical piano concertos of Chopin and Debussy. Gabriele has joined the Austrian Tourist Office in the mid-'80s, where she started her travel career by counseling clients who are planning trips to Austria. After many years in marketing and media relations, she's now focusing on trip development, product innovation, and B2B communication. She works closely with the US travel agency. And with that, I'm going to pass things along to Gabriele. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
You got my whole bio in. Let me share you my screen with me. So here we go. Thank you very much for all coming and listening to my little presentation on Austria. I'm Gabriele. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Judy. As you can see, Austria is a beautiful place to visit, especially in the outdoors. But I thought I'd start my journey in Vienna. This is the Musikverein. This is the home of the Vienna Philharmonic. And Austria is, as much as it is about nature, it's also about music and other parts of culture there is. But music is one of the biggest heartbeats of Austria. So I work for the Austrian Tourist Office in New York. I have been here over 30 years. And this is where Austria is located. It's right in the heart of Europe. So we are surrounded by 8 different countries, meaning that very often you can do a 2-country or a 3-country itinerary because it's so easily arranged that way. So to the left, there's Liechtenstein, there's Switzerland, there's Germany, there's the Czech Republic, there's Slovak Republic, there's Hungary, and there's all the way down south is Slovenia. So yeah, right smack in the middle. We have about 9 million people living in Austria, 8.859 million. What you might not know, and I thought put in, is that Austria is the leader in organic and biodynamic farming within Europe. It started in the 30s with a movement by Rudolf Steiner called Anthroposophy, I think it's called. But in the 90s, the Austrian governments gave a lot of subsidies and innovation development to the farms, and that really sprung up an old idea into a new organic and biodynamic farming. You will also see a lot of biodynamic farming within the winemaking industry. It's all around the eastern part of Austria. Then 2/3 of Austria are covered by the Alps. About 30% of the Eastern Alps are in Austria. And out of that comes a great combination of nature and culture. And when you visit Austria, you're right immersed in that. So what's happening right now in Austria? Austria has been on lockdown until May 19th for a good part of 6 or 7 months. So that meant people had to be home, and then later on only people like in Canada right now can meet with 10 people or 25 people. They had to go through rigorous testing each time they traveled from one place of Austria to the next place of Austria. So the government opened this whole thing up on May 19th, and people could go back to work and could go about the daily lives. Mask and social distancing regimen was in place. So was a testing regimen in place. Then Austria opened up to Europe, mainly to the areas in the Schengen Agreement, which is the states that are all part of the European Union. And so far hasn't opened up to visitors out from abroad, Canada or US, but it's widely expected to happen soon. Our director already was over there, but he's an Austrian citizen. We wanted to test all the procedures that were in place. We wanted to get a sense for this. And with the proper documentation, he had no problem. He was able to enter Austria. He was able to go to the opera, all of that. So within the next 2-3 weeks, I know every European country slowly now is opening, and we expect the same thing to happen for Austria. So what is Austria about? For one thing, it's the imperial elegance of old Europe. We had 640 years of Habsburg dynasty being placed right in Vienna. And so Vienna has a lot of history in that regard, but so does the rest of Austria. You have to imagine during the Habsburg Empire, many countries were connected. They are separate today, but up to 53 million people belong to the Habsburg Empire. Today, Austria is 8.8 million. We have shrank a little bit, but we have Vienna and we have the cultural heritage of the Habsburgs. Austria has about 50% of Austria is forest, and we have an amazing amount of lakes because of the glacier structure that happened early on. So what you're seeing here is a lake that has drink water quality. In the 70s, we had very progressive movements from the villages to create canal systems all around the lakes, and that proves today very beneficial. We have the Lake District that I will show you later on a few pictures. We have over 60 lakes, and all of them are drink water quality. And of course, 50% of forest needs to be managed, and we have very innovative forest management in place and local farming community care for our mountains and our forest. This is our tallest mountain in Austria. It's called the Großglockner. It's 3,798 meters high, and it's part of the Hohe Tauern. The Hohe Tauern is a whole mountain range, and this here, all of these little peaks you're seeing, we call it the Glocknergruppe, and the Glocknergruppe's taller mountains is the Großglockner. Oh, and there is this very famous Großglockner High Alpine Road. People from all over the world come and go on this serpentine kind of roads up. People bike up there as well. There are guest houses along the way, so you can stop at any point. But yeah, it's quite a famous, spectacular road to take in Austria. And a farming country, the way Austria is, we have a lot of local regional cuisine. This is a very typical dish called Tiroler Kröstel. You find that in the Tyrolean mountains. You have the eggs from the farm, you have the chives, you have the potatoes, then some pork or some bacon right in there. So it's a really hearty dish, but absolutely beautiful. All of these dishes usually have caraway seeds in them, gives it a really beautiful spice. Caraway is a very important spice in all of Austria, in the baking or in many other dishes. And if you get into the Lake District, gourmet restaurants there, or any restaurant, really guest houses as well, serve fresh fish from the lake. This looks to me like this would be a saibling, that's a descendant from the Arctic char. And you have some local potatoes there, and very often root vegetables or kraut. This seems to be a cabbage dish. So this is what a typical Austrian meal would look in one of the guest houses that you encounter. So now here is my layout. I go from Vienna to Lower Austria, then we go into the Lake District, we go to Salzburg, from Salzburg to Innsbruck, and we finish up in Bregenz. If you go to Austria and you fly non-stop, maybe from Austrian Airlines, there's a flight out of Montreal to Vienna. This is the Vienna airport. Within recent years, they have built a new terminal in Vienna, which is now a very, very state-of-the-art terminal. They are building a new one again. Vienna is a very strategic point to the Eastern European countries or the Central European countries. So there's lots of connections made through Vienna to that way, but also to India and to other parts of the world. So very often, if you have a connecting flight through Vienna, it goes as little as 15 minutes that you can go from one gate to the next because of the way those new terminals are built. So the Vienna airport, if you fly to Vienna, is about 30 minutes outside of the city. And here now we are in the middle of Vienna. This is the first district. You see a little cathedral there. It's St. Stephen's Cathedral. This is the most historic and inner district of Vienna. A lot of really nice hotels are in this area. Everything is within walking distance. And that yellow line is called the Ring. And the Ring, it's a little bit inside the Ring. And the Ring are the old fortification walls of Vienna. So Vienna was settled as a Roman a settlement because of the Danube. Danube brought a lot of trade to Vienna, and from that time on, it grew outwards, and now it has 22 or 23 districts going all the way out to the wine country. My favorite thing in Vienna are the Lipizzaner horses. This is an Habsburg tradition. Habsburg loved everything white, and so the white horses came to Vienna. It's a breed going back to the Andalusian horses. Today they are bred in Austria, in a stud farm 2 hours south of Vienna. But they are very, very intelligent horses, and they're being trained by a rider. They stay with a rider for a lifetime. They are very sensitive, symbiotic relationship between those two. So if you want to see them, they're extremely elegant, extremely beautiful. There is morning training in the morning, or you can go to a gala performance in the evening. And there is also visits to the stable, so you can take a guided tour through the stable. This is the Museum of Fine Arts called Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna. This is a museum that was built exclusively for the Habsburg collections. The Habsburgs were avid art collectors. They had Titians, they had Bruegels, they had Egyptian artifacts. So all of that is in that building, and it's a beautiful museum to visit. This museum has a mirror image on the other side of the plaza, and that is then the Museum of Natural History. They also collected a lot of natural objects, lots of animals. So both of those museums can be seen today. And here, of course, is Vienna State Opera. Vienna would be nothing without music. The Vienna State Opera has a performance every night. It's only closed for the Vienna Opera Ball that takes place in February. So if you're in Vienna and you like classic music and you like opera, this is the place to be. Very often you get standing only home tickets outside in a little ticket booth. But if you wanted to find a preferred seat, so you need to contact the Vienna State Opera directly, and they have a website. And one thing I would recommend to do in Vienna is having a Viennese coffee. If you go to a Viennese coffee house, such as this, local people love their Viennese coffee houses. You find them there all the time. They have up to 13 different coffee varieties that they serve. My favorite one is called a Viennese iced coffee. That's beautiful in the summer, where you have coffee with a little bit of vanilla ice cream and some whipped cream on top. So you also get fresh cakes and cookies there as well. So it's a really great place to have a cool Viennese experience. And here we are outside of Vienna in the Heurigen district, or the wine district. We are overlooking the city. There is the Danube in the background. Along the Danube, there is a lot of biking paths. You can bike everywhere. All of the cities in Austria are very bike friendly. Everywhere are bike lanes, but a lot of people bike along the Danube. So when you go into the countryside, you want to drink or taste this wine. This is called a Viennese field blend, or gemischter Satz. So this is when up to 12 different grape varieties are mixed together, and different grades of firmness, or some of them are ripe and some of them are not. But this is a Viennese specialty that has been brought back by the Viennese winemaker. So a gemischter Satz or field blend is what you would want to try in Vienna. That's I would highly recommend. So now we are going from Vienna. We are taking a trip on the Danube. We call it Lower Austria. And this is where you're going to go into the strip along the Danube called the Wachau Valley. The Wachau Valley with Dürnstein is one of the most scenic little places there, but there are many little wine villages along the way. See, this is the Wachau Valley, Dürnstein, Weißenkirchenspitz. These are all areas that are easily reached by bike if you bike through this area, or you can also hike through this area. So this is what those vineyards look like. They are old, ancient wine walls that and all this wine needs to be hand harvested, but it's the combination between the Danube and the mountains there that create a microclimate for our wines. So Riesling and Grüner Veltliner are the two grape varieties that are mainly harvested in this area, and they are world famous wines because they are just so high in mineral content. They are very food friendly wines, and they're perfect summer wines to drink. So all of these trails you see here, you can hike anywhere you want. You can hike through these vineyards. People won't say anything. It's just a really beautiful way to interact with nature in that area. And now I'm taking you over to the Alps. We first go to the Lake District. See, this is a little bit outside of Salzburg, is the Lake District, and then we head to Salzburg. So when we go from Vienna to Salzburg, we either go by car, that's about a 3-hour, 15 minutes ride, or by train, 2 hours or 20 minutes. That's an express train called the Railjet. But you can also, if you go by car, you would also make a whole day trip out of it and stop along the way wherever you think is being nice. So this is the Railjet. This is our high-speed train. There's internet on board. It travels from Vienna to Munich, to Zurich, to Budapest, to Prague. So it's a really great train. This is the Vienna train station that was opened up in 2015. Again, state-of-the-art train station. Vienna invested heavily in alternative infrastructure. So this is one of the sustainable ways of traveling in Austria. So now I have taken you to the Lake District. The Lake District is dating back to the Celts. The Celts have settled here because there is salt was found in this area. So 2000 BC, Hallstatt era is when the first settlements are recorded here. And so you're looking out at an area for about 60 lakes, I would say, around 50, 60 lakes, small and big and cold and warm, and depending how deep they are. And this is where you might want to view them from. These are the 5 fingers. It's a platform that was built up on top of the mountain. You take a cable car up, walk about 20 minutes on a trail system, and you get to that viewing platform. And this is what you then will see. It's really spectacular view. And when you head into the Lake District, you will see a lot of people wear a dirndl. A dirndl is something that was created in this area. It's a tradition, has a linen top and has a skirt and an apron. Many different variations on colors, but this is one dirndl that's specific for the Hallstatt region and that lake that I just showed you. So this is Hallstatt. A lot of people say it. The movie Frozen, that little village in Frozen, was modeled based on Hallstatt. But Hallstatt is the most photographed village in all of Austria. During the summer months, you will find a lot of Asian visitors there. It's very, very famous in Asia, in Korea, in Japan, and so on. But yeah, so this is a typical village within the Lake District. And this is one of the most beautiful viewing points. It's called the Gosau view. Many, many painters in Austria have depicted that view. So you will see this view very often in paintings as well. So now we are heading into Salzburg. That's my hometown, but you can see anywhere Salzburg in the middle, 45 minutes to an hour, you're in the Lake District. And then from Salzburg, 90 minutes, you're in Munich or Munich Airport. So this is my town. This is where I come from. You have the mountains in the back, you have the city in the middle, and a river runs through it. It's very perfect. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Because of the archbishops that came from Rome to Salzburg, they rebuilt Salzburg as a city with lots of churches, a Baroque city. So here you see the view of the old town, and it's really easy to walk everywhere in Salzburg. So this is how you walk up to the mountains. There is a trail system up to the mountains. That's the Salzburg Cathedral. So you see, this is a city, and the green spaces are the mountains, and there's a trail system on top of it. And from everywhere, you usually have really good viewing points to various aspects of the city. And this is all within 15 minutes of walking. Mozart, of course, is from Salzburg. He is the reason we have a very famous music festival every year in Salzburg. But a day with Mozart in Salzburg would include a visit to his birthplace and also a visit to his living quarters, and probably a Mozart concert if you like classical music. And if you wanted to bring back a souvenir, there are the handmade Mozartkugeln by a coffee shop in Salzburg. They're very delicious. So these are the Salzburg music festivals. There is Mozart's birthday in January. Then there is the Easter festival. There are in Witzans the festival. So the January and Easter festival this year had to be virtual, but the Witzan festival already took place in person, and the Salzburg festival in July and August now will take place again. They were very adamant. They were trying to make this event as safe as they could for people, and they were very successful with very, very strict measurements to be able to have a culture going on last summer, and they will have it again this year. So these are the Mozart concerts. You find them all over in palaces, chamber orchestra, or sometimes larger orchestras. So when you're in Salzburg, I would definitely make sure that you get a concert performed in Salzburg in Mozart's music. And a lot of people also come about Salzburg about Sound of Music. So there is a Sound of Music tour. This is the gazebo that can be visited. This is Leopold's Kron Palace. That's also a hotel that can be visited. So Salzburg is not only a place for Mozart, but also Sound of Music. So Salzburg to Innsbruck now, I take you by car takes about 2-3 hours, but again, you can make it a whole day trip. The railjet, the fast train, will take 1 hour and 50 minutes, and a regular train, which might go not on a shortcut version, but through the mountainous road, will take 3 hours. And so just outside of Salzburg, I mentioned before, we have salt. So these are the salt mines, and you can visit them. There are about 5 different salt mines. They can be visited, and this one is just south of Salzburg, about 20 minutes outside of Salzburg. There are ice caves. They have Europe's largest ice cave, so you can go and take guided tours in there. It's beautiful temperature, especially when it's very hot outside. And if you're a much more experienced climber or a caving person, you can take special tours with guides as well. On the way down to Innsbruck, you will see this fortress. It's Fortress Hohenwerfen. They have a birds of prey show there. It's just a really majestic, beautiful medieval fortress that's still intact. And of course, our waterfalls. We have a lot of waterfalls in Austria, and this is one of our tallest ones. They say it's really healthy to be close to water like that. You receive all this thin mist, and it's supposed to be really good for your lungs. So this is part of the National Park Hohe Tauern, and if you remember the mountain range before, that's all part of National Park Hohe Tauern, the Großglockner and the Glocknergruppe and the Grimmer waterfalls. And now we have arrived in Innsbruck. Innsbruck is right on the axis of north-south and east-west. It's a medieval town, has many different aspects to it, but the most beautiful thing in Innsbruck, I think, you're surrounded by mountains. You have mountains to the north, mountains to the south, and you're right smack in the middle. Here you can see the Innsbruck all the way to the right here, one mountain range to the north, one mountain range to the south, all these little villages all around Innsbruck. It's a plateau, so it's easy to bike everywhere, and it's also easy to hike everywhere. You can go from the city center in Innsbruck to a cable car on top of the mountain within 20 minutes. So it's really, you're right in the outdoors, and the Tyrolean mountains are just really spectacular, and people have a big mindset around the outdoors. So if I would sum up Innsbruck in a nutshell, there is the Alpine feel to Innsbruck. There were 2 Winter Olympic Games in Innsbruck, and then they had a Youth Olympic Game in Innsbruck. You can still take a bobsled ride from that time, but it is just, you see that cable car? That's the one that takes you up to the mountains in 20 minutes, and you have beautiful lakes nearby. Oh, I should say the skiing in Innsbruck, it's an area where anybody who wants to go in a group with families and want to stay in the city, and not everybody is a skier, you can take a ski bus to one of the 5 different ski areas, and the rest of the family can go shopping or can go to Italy or Germany on day trips. So Innsbruck is a really perfect combination for that. It's not a ski-in, ski-out resort, but it's one that has everything for a diverse group of people. And then there's the imperial aspect of Innsbruck. Innsbruck was part of Maximilian's favorite place. Maximilian was part of the Habsburg family. He was the Emperor Maximilian. Because of him, Innsbruck has a lot of imperial connections. You see one church with the whole Habsburgs, very important Habsburgs members from all over Europe. You see this castle, Schloss Ambras. It's a Renaissance castle with great art treasures. So because of, and then the landmark of Innsbruck all the way to the right is called the Golden Roof, and that was built in honor of Emperor Maximilian. Then you get an urban flair of Innsbruck. You have the Swarovski crystal walls up to the upper right-hand side. It's the Swarovski family has their factory there. And this is a spectacular museum with chambers of wonder that have been designed from artists all over the world. But it's all about crystals and, you know, shopping, of course. There's a great gift shop at the end. But it's also the urban feel comes from modern day architecture. Zaha Hadid, the late Zaha Hadid, designed that jumping tower. Ski jumping is done every year in January. There is a big circuit of ski jumping, so that's really important for Innsbruck, and so they had this tower built. And to the middle here, you see a snowboarding event that's a Burton event that happens every year and brings in a really big, fun, young crowd. And now we go from Innsbruck all the way to Bregenz, and then we are at the western part of Austria. So by car or by train, it would be 2.5 hours. And just to give you an idea, from Vienna to all the way to the western part of Austria, it's about 9 hours by train. So Austria is not that big, and it can easily be scaled in many different ways. So you can make many stopovers along the way, and it will. And then again, you can make other country connections as well. So here we arrived in Bregenz, and the most unusual thing about Bregenz is Lake Constance. Lake Constance is now shared by 3 different countries. We share that lake with Switzerland, Germany, and ourselves. And this is the cable car going up to the Pfänder Mountain. Great view for over the whole region. And this is something very spectacular that only takes place in this area. It's an opera festival, an opera every 2 years. They have an opera for every 2 years, the same opera. This is Rigoletto by Verdi. And so they built this spectacular stage on the lake, and you sit, it's an open air performance, and you see this this really great festival and music. And so it's taking place this year, mid-July till end of August. And yeah, so they are selling tickets right now, and they have been following the lead of the Salzburg Festival. So they have all made it possible to have art back in Austria. And the whole region, if you go into further to the Bregenz Wald and the Bregenzer Forest, is known for innovative architecture. Architects work with local craftsmen very closely to reimagine modern day wood based on old tradition. So in the back, you see an old traditional shingle wood house, and in front of it, an architect imagined something new, based on an old concept. So everywhere in this region, you will find these kind of innovation because it's something that people really love there and really try to preserve. There is, for example, this is a bus station. The mayor of Krumbach, a small town, wanted innovative bus stations, and he did a contest, an international architectural contest, and he had 7 different bus stations designed by 7 different architects. And so this is what you find in that little village in the Bregenzer Forest. So this concludes my presentation. I thank you very much for your kind intention, and I hope, and we hope, to see you soon in Austria again.
Thank you, Gabrielle. That was great. I want to go to Austria.
Okay, hope so. So.
Whoops. Thanks again to Gabrielle. That was great. I don't see any questions in the chat right now. So Manny's just going to do a brief overview of a few of the tours that we have that go to Austria. If you have questions later, feel free to send them our way and we'll answer them. Or if we can't answer them, we'll pass them along to Gabrielle, who I'm sure can answer them. So Manny's just going to talk about a couple of tours that we have that go to Austria. I'm passing it over to you, Manny.
Okay, I first want to thank Gabriel for such a wonderful overview in such a short period of time. But I also want to mention that the mention of Lake Constance, which Judy is very familiar with because she was there for what, 3-4 years, Judy?
Yeah.
And Lake Constance, as was mentioned by Gabriel, is actually part of the Rhine River system, and it's I think the 3rd largest lake in that side, that part of Europe. It's just great. There's all sorts of cycling routes around the lake, of course, and from the part when you're in Austrian part, you can look up and you can see Innsbruck up from the lake. So it really is a beautiful part of, and the other thing that's nice about that part of Europe itself is the fact that there's a special type of climate in that particular part of that the lake effect has. But that said, I'll go back to the what we have up here on the screen, which is there's our good thing we're talking about Innsbruck, which you just finished speaking about. So we have a road bike tour actually that does that part of Austria from Innsbruck down to Salzburg, and it's on a road bike, so it's the usual type of tour that we have, which is 8 days and 7 nights, and it's Innsbruck is the just get my notes together here. I wasn't sure what we're starting, so that's it. So as Gabriel mentioned, there have been twice the Winter Olympics has been in Salzburg over the years in '64 and '76. Also, it's actually the 5th largest city in Austria. As was mentioned earlier, it's less than 8.9 million people in Austria. So the cities, most of them aren't that huge, and they have a lot of tradition that goes way, way back. So that tour that we have, the road bike tour, is 8 days and 7 nights. So there's a lot of other tours that are sort of in that area. You can also get into, as mentioned by Gabriel again, about how close it is to Italy, and we do have one that actually goes from Innsbruck right to Venice. So it's there's a lot of tours in that particular area, and as it says, it's 8 days, 7 nights, self-guided is our tour from Innsbruck to Salzburg. And now we're talking about Salzburg to Vienna, which is 8 days and 7 nights. Again, and that goes every day actually from near the beginning of April until October. And the nice thing about that tour is the operator actually pays for the train trip trip to take from Vienna to Salzburg to start your tour, which is really great because it's easy to spend a couple of days in Vienna at the beginning and a couple of days at the end. And because it goes every day, you can also have the option to be able to come along and spend extra days someplace along the route if you wish, but you have to plan that ahead of time. So it really is a great way because you really get down to see some wine country as well as you get down towards the Danube. So that's a fun tour. And as I say, the other thing I'll mention about the bike tours like this one is the choice of a regular bike or an e-bike for those people that want to have it a little easier, but they're relatively flat and the distances are easy to get to. The nice thing about the self-guided tours we have is that every day your luggage is moved from hotel to hotel. You get great maps and you can rent some great bikes. Okay, hiking. This is delightful, of course, because as we mentioned earlier, there's so much mountainous areas in Austria, but still there's a lot of reasonably flat country too. And again, this happens to be, and we have dates for 2022 in this one as well. And if anyone's looking, by the way, for any tour for 2022, please let us know. We'll certainly look to see if the operator can provide us with the rates. If not, they quite often will match the rates for 2022 that they have in 2021. So this is, again, this is a guided tour. It's on fixed dates because it's guided. There's two different levels of climbing ability. And you obviously have the choice of which one, and each of them is guided with a guide that's familiar with each of the levels of hiking. And this is obviously south of Innsbruck, not difficult to get to. So it's really a wonderful opportunity to have a nice opportunity to see all sorts of sights from high up and down low. So that's hiking in the Austrian Tyrol. And now we have the last one we have here is the Danube. This actually starts in Germany in Passau, which is along the Danube River. The Danube River runs downstream, actually, and enters into the Black Sea. So it's a very how should you put it, inviting river. And that's why it's infamous. Besides going by Vienna, so this is a nice cycling path that runs along the river to some extent, and a lot of old villages with great accommodation. We have two levels of accommodation. Again, this starts near the beginning of October, April, and runs into October. Because there's two levels of accommodation, you can have a nicer place to stay or a good place. But again, rental bikes available, both e-bike and regular bikes, as well as the luggage being moved every day from hotel to hotel. And this is a good way to see a good part of very developed parts of Austria, because you've seen some of the wine areas that were shown by Gabriele earlier. So that's that particular part of that tour. And you know, it's really nice to see that there's just so many nice areas to cycle in. And it was mentioned earlier about the Lake District, and we have cycle tours in that area too, so you get a chance to visit a number of the beautiful lakes, of the 50 or 60 lakes that Gabriele mentioned earlier. So that's what I have to add to this particular evening. But I want to thank everyone for being here and for watching this and participating. And Gabriele, a special big thank you for your wonderful presentation. Very much enjoyed it. Thank you so very much.
Before we go, I do have a couple questions. This one, well, either for Gabriele or Manny, can you tell us about the Drau bicycle path in southern Austria?
Oh, D-R-A-U?
D-R-A-U, yes, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
Yeah, Trau. That's another river. You know, like Salzburg has Salzburg River, Innsbruck has the Inn River, Trau has the Trau River, goes back all the way, I think, to Slovenia. Yes, it's one of the many bicycle paths we have. I think it travels through Carinthia and Styria, if I remember correctly. Absolutely beautiful Mediterranean climate. It's very close to the southern border.
Thank you. The next question is, are these bike trips solo or guided? I'll answer that. The ones that we just presented are solo, but we can also do guided as well. We have lots of tours in Austria. So there are some where they're self-guided. They give you a map for each day. They move your luggage, but you go at your own speed and do your own thing. And there are others where you'll have a guide that will take you through the whole trip. The next question is, what is the total distance of the cycle tour from Salzburg to Vienna?
I'm just checking on that right now.
Off your head.
Give me a second, I'll find it. I did see it, and I thought it was about 300 kilometers actually, but just see here, it's, I got it. Finally, it's 310. I was close.
That was very close.
Very good. Yes, I'm impressed.
I would thank you. All right. If we don't have any more questions, I want to thank everyone, especially Gabrielle, for the great presentation. I want to thank everyone for coming out and taking time out of their day to watch it. We will be putting it on our YouTube channel because it has been recorded. It'll get up onto the YouTube channel by Monday, hopefully sooner. And the link for the YouTube presentation will be in next month's newsletter. It will also be put up on our Facebook page. Thanks everyone for coming out. Have a wonderful evening. Tomorrow looks like a great day for a bike ride.